Alright, so if I press play, you'll see we have a very chunky walk cycle, which we're going to clean up. Let's take a look at a couple things. Here, let me make sure that your time slider setting is to 24 and then 24 frames for one. Now remember what I told you in the last video. As the foot plants, right, so it comes up and then it plants down. What we want is a little bit of a toe pivot, right? We want this. We want the heel to be pivoted out like that, um, so that you get something that looks like this. See how it kind of curves in and around? So let's go ahead and make sure that's the same. Now the issue is this. I didn't add the heel pivot to this foot here. So now when I press play, we get a nice snap, right? And we also, when the foot is up here on 7, we want the foot to turn out. So like on this one would be 19. So with that heel pivot, I can pivot the foot out a little bit and then it comes down and grabs. And with that, the knee points out. And you get this motion here. And then the foot snaps forward. And maybe that's too pronounced, right? Maybe we can, on 19, move that in just a little bit. Because it really should just be 2. Otherwise she'll look like she has a limp or she has a hurt leg. So let's bring that in just a little bit. We also might want to clean this up a little bit. So let's do a little bit of cleanup. So with my NG Skin tools here, I'm just going to go ahead and select paint. And I'm just going to relax. Let's actually turn off our joints too. Just relax this knee a little bit. So let's do left knee. And we just want to relax these knees a little bit here. And part of the problem is, actually the weighting was pretty good there. It was green and then white. We want to smooth it. I was actually adding it to the wrong joint. So let's go ahead and smooth all this out so we don't have such a hard crease. And then let's take a look at how that looks. Yeah, it looks a lot better. Alright, so just as a refresher, let's go ahead and add an attribute called heel pivot. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to go to modify, add attribute, heel pivot. We're going to do an integer. And I forget, did we go from 0 to 10? Yeah, we went from -10. So let's do minimum -10 and then max 10. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit add to this one. Let's do that again. I had the wrong one selected. So heel pivot, -10, and then max 10 here. Let's hit add. There we go, showed up. Alright, let's bring our joints back. Now for the heel pivot, what we're doing is we're going to pivot on that back heel. So this right here would be 0. This would be probably -10, and that would be my +10. And the reason is just based on if I hold this down, my movement of left and right. Alright, so let's go ahead and this is going to be our driver. So let's go to animation. And then we want to do sit under rigging. I forget already. Yeah, it's under key. Set driven key. Here we go. Set. And we want to click the options. So we're going to load this in as our driver, which it already is. It's under the driven, so we're going to select that. And then all we're doing is selecting this joint as our driven. And then what we're rotating on is that y-axis, so all we have to do is select that y. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is on 0. And I'm going to key that. And now this is locked in. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to -10 now. And I'm going to rotate it all the way out. I'm going to really exaggerate this. And then I'm going to key that. And then I'm going to change this to 10. And I'm going to rotate it all the way the other way on Y, all the way in. And then I'm going to key that. Now let's see what happens. Doesn't seem like it's selected. This is joint 5. Oh, you know what? We didn't actually key anything because here's our joint. And we had this thing selected instead of the joint. So let's try that again. So on 0, we want to key that joint. So let's make sure that's in as load driven. And rotate Y, key that. Let's double check it. There's heel pivot. And then on this, let's go ahead and make sure it's all the way out here. See if it snaps if we type in -10, which it does, which is good. So let's do that again. All the way out. Key that. Go back to 0. Let's go all the way to 10 here. Go all the way in. Key that. All right. So now what we can do is on 13, we can give ourselves a little bit of a pivot there. So I'm going to set a key. And then all the way on frame 7, we can leave that alone. And then on 4, we want to zero out our heel pivot. So going from 1, our foot goes up. 7 starts to curve out a little bit like that. And then as it plants, we get this. And then on 16, we zero that out. And so we get something that looks like this. We get both feet grabbing the floor. Now, remember a couple things. So on 19, ours was up here. On 7, we want to bring this down and out just a little bit. And we're getting that weird creasing here on the knee. So let's open up our NG Tools, Paint, make sure smoothing is on, and let's just smooth out this area a little bit inside of here. And I really should give the knees, I'm going to add a little bit more weight to the our hip. And you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to add a little more weight. You'll see it get a little puffy, and then I'm going to smooth it out. And what we get, you'll see see how it pulled some of that up. What it does is it averages it out and smooths it, gives it a nice little thing like that. Let's go ahead and let's paint this again, and we're going to smooth this out a little bit more. What I might do is let's find where the leg is straight, and with the R hip, I'm going to add a little bit to in here, just up in here like that, and then I'm going to smooth it out. What smoothing does is it smooths out the weighting between the two without compromising too much of where the joint is weighting from. So for example, if this joint has most of the vert's strength, it'll still give it, but it'll start to smooth out just it'll smooth out the distance between them without affecting too much of the weight itself. So let's see how that looks. So it doesn't look bad. The creasing looks okay. Looks good. So let's see how that looks when we walk. Not too bad. Okay, there's 7. And yeah, okay. Let's actually do, so here's frame 7 here. Let's go ahead and knock out frame 9. What happens on 9 is our character starts to lift up a little bit. So we're going to pull this up just a little bit here. Our character starts to go up on their toes and a little higher in the air, and so does the foot. So this happens on 9 and 19, and then our character catches themselves like that. So they really go up here and then boom. So we're going to do the same thing on 19 here. is with this toe, let's see what we put it at on this one. We did a -3, so on 19, on this one we're going to do a -3 as well, or a 3 rather. And then what's the height on this? We've got 0.43, so let's just do maybe 0.4. Let's see what 0.4 looks like. Ooh, what was that? Oh, it was 0.03, so let's do 0.04, maybe 2. We'll do 0.03. And then on 19, let's do 0.03 as well. And then let's look at this foot here. We have 0.5 and then -0.1. And then we'll do the same here. So 0.5 and minus, I already seem to forgot what is that, -0.1. Maybe too exaggerated. Let's see. Here's 9. 9 and 19. So what do we have going on? 0.5 minus 0.1, 4 and 1 here. We have 3 and it's these that are the problem. See how this kind of affects, well, this is really out, like, let's see. Ah, -3, not -8. There we go. That looks a lot better. This also needs to be a little bit more out like that. Same thing on 9. This will be out here. This needs to be a little bit more out like this. Yeah. And I think the foot roll here is, let's see, what is that? -2. That's 2. Yeah, pretty even. I think we just need to get into the graph editor and really smooth out those curves. All right, so what we'll do in the next video is start working on our way up the body a little bit better. And then in the end, we'll do one final polish pass to clean up so that our walk doesn't look so robotic.